Chapter 61. One move is enough to kill you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 61. One move is enough to kill you. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The reason why the leader of the Mad Saber sect came to Jiangqing City was for the sake of his disciple. This remote city did not interest him at all. Then, he entered a meditative state on the rooftop. As you command, Master. Chen Ping bowed to the leader of the Mad Saber sect and responded respectfully. When he noticed the envious looks from the crowd, he felt very conceited. Then, Chen Ping's eyes turned to Li Qinyan. However, when he found that the eyes of the other party remained indifferent to the presence of the leader of the Mad Saber sect, he narrowed his eyes. Humph, pretend all you want. When I defeat you later, you will be a member and slave of my Qin family. I will trample upon you. And those 3 little girls, I will not waste them and take them all as my concubines. At the thought of this, the long saber in Chen Ping's hand shone. The tip of the saber was pointed in the direction of Li Qinyan. Li Qinyan, our battle is next. Don't forget our agreement. As soon as those words were spoken, some cultivators who did not know what was going on revealed puzzled expressions. An agreement. When did these 2 parties have an agreement? Could it be the marriage agreement? Ridiculous. I have never made an agreement with you. The reason why I came here is to let you know that you are not qualified to marry me. Li Qinyan raised her eyelids slightly and then said those words loudly. Then, she jumped up and stepped onto the arena like a swallow. Ha ha ha, this is really ridiculous. I am the strongest genius in Jiangqing City. If I don't have the qualifications, then who does? Do you really think that with your strength, you can withstand 3 moves from me? If I use my full strength, you won't be able to even withstand 1 move from me. Moreover, I can kill you with 1 move. Chen Ping laughed angrily. His face alternated between shades of purple and green. A mere 7th level Qi transformation realm cultivator actually dared to look down on him. Was she not courting death? 1 move. That makes sense. Indeed, I can finish you off in 1 move. Li Qinyan slowly raised the long sword in her hand. The sword flickered with sharp sword qi. You are courting death. Hearing this, Chen Ping's eyes turned completely cold. Originally, he wanted to play with Li Qinyan. Now, he only wanted to stomp Li Qinyan under his feet in the shortest possible time. He wanted to let Li Qinyan know who was the strongest genius in Jiangqing City. The long saber in Chen Ping's hand released a half-moon-shaped saber qi. Slicing through the air, it flew toward Li Qinyan. Li Qinyan's expression did not change at all. She waved her long sword, and her 8-level true essence realm cultivation surged forth. When Chen Ping saw this, his facial expression changed drastically. This is true essence power. How is this possible? At that moment, his eyes were full of disbelief. This was definitely an illusion. Li Qinyan was supposed to be in the 7th level of the Qi transformation realm. How could she have stepped into the true essence realm? This woman must have used some sort of illusion to trick him. Yes, it had to be like this. Chen Ping's gaze turned ruthless. The half-moon curved saber qi released a bright light as it slashed toward Li Qinyan. No, at this moment, the leader of the Mad Saber sect who was meditating frowned slightly, and his eyes suddenly opened. Li Qinyan, was this woman the Li Qinyan that Chen Ping mentioned? In the intelligence report, it was stated that she was only at the 7th level of the Qi transformation realm. Why did she reveal the strength of an 8th-level true essence realm cultivator now? Could he have remembered that wrongly? That was impossible. He was a top-tier core formation realm expert. How could he have misheard this sentence? No, this was very wrong. For a moment, the eyes of the leader of the Mad Saber sect were filled with doubt, and his heart was extremely conflicted. Ever since he stepped into the core formation realm, he had never felt such emotions. He had no choice. The shock that Li Qinyan had given him was too great. How could a 7th level Qi transformation realm cultivator turn into an 8th level true essence realm cultivator within such a short time? Chen Juanhao had clearly told him earlier that Li Qinyan and Chen Ping were about the same age, but that her strength was slightly lower than Chen Ping's, having only reached the 7th level of the Qi transformation realm. Moreover, in the previous genius competition held in Jiangqing City, Li Qinyan had been defeated by Chen Ping. However, at this moment, Li Qinyan was clearly displaying the strength of an 8th level true essence realm cultivator. How could such a talented genius lose to Chen Ping? What exactly had gone wrong here? The leader of the Mad Saber sect frowned and fell into a state of deep thought. Chen Juanhao was also stunned. His cultivation had reached the 6th level of the Purple Spirit realm, so when Li Qinyan released her true strength, he suddenly realized that her cultivation was indeed at the 8th level of the True Essence realm. At that moment, Chen Juanhao was at a loss. He did not know what had happened at all. Wasn't she supposed to be in the 7th level of the Qi transformation realm? How did she reach the 8th level of the True Essence realm in just a few days? Could this be any more ridiculous? Although the two of them felt that this was incredulous, they did not think of spiritual power infusion as the cause behind this. Crack. Boom. Chen Juanhao only reacted when the long saber in Chen Ping's hand was suddenly cut off, and his son spat out blood onto the arena floor. Son. Chen Juanhao's facial expression changed greatly when he saw what had happened. The aura around Chen Ping's body had become extremely faint. Blood flowed from the corners of his mouth. He was holding the remaining half of the long saber in his hand as he kneeled on the arena with difficulty. Damn it! Seeing this, Chen Juanhao's eyes were filled with monstrous anger. His distraction had actually caused his precious son to be heavily injured. It was not surprising though. Li Qinyan's 8th level True Essence realm cultivation was just too shocking. It was unbelievable that she had reached the 8th level of the True Essence realm at such a young age. Most importantly, he clearly remembered that a few days ago, Li Qinyan was still in the 7th level of the Qi transformation realm. How did she increase her cultivation to such an extent? This overload of information and disbelief had stunned him for a few seconds. Swoosh! A gleam of light flashed past. Chen Juanhao's fist, which was full of terrifying power, suddenly smashed into the arena's defensive array formation. He then hurried over to Chen Ping. Chen Ping, on the other hand, was kneeling on the arena floor with a pained expression. His body trembled, and blood kept spurting out of his mouth. One move. This woman actually cut off his long saber with just one move. The violent power from her attack was wreaking havoc inside his body. He thought that the true essence power that Li Qinyan was exuding was just an illusion, but it was real. It was also due to his carelessness that he did not use the protective jade slip on his body. That was why he was severely injured by Li Qinyan's one move, and was even on the verge of death. How? How was this possible? This woman had really stepped into the true essence realm. What exactly happened? How did her cultivation increase so much within the span of a few days? Although Chen Ping was unable to determine Li Qinyan's exact cultivation level, the true essence power in her body could not be faked. Son, father is here. Quickly. Take this healing pill and stabilize your mind. I will start healing you now. Chen Juanhao said anxiously. His hands trembled, and his eyes were filled with worry. Chen Ping's current situation was extremely precarious. He had one foot into the netherworld. If things were not handled properly, it was very likely that he would never recover from this. Chapter 62. Who do you think you are? How you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 62. Who do you think you are? How dare you even think of touching my disciple? Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, damn *tch, how dare you injure my precious son. After feeding Chen Ping the pill, Chen Juanhao stood up slowly. His eyes were filled with anger and his body was bursting with purple spiritual power. At this moment, his mind was filled with anger. He no longer cared about the fact that Li Qinyan was the woman that his precious son had been longing for. He did not even care about why Li Qinyan's cultivation had increased by so much. He just wanted to slap Li Qinyan to death. How could this be? How could this be? Chen Ping, who was lying unconscious on the arena platform, muttered those words to himself in a daze. His expression was filled with unwillingness, and streams of blood slowly flowed out of his mouth. Seeing this, Chen Juanhao's facial expression changed. He quickly gave up on the idea of killing Li Qinyan and rushed over to Chen Ping's side. Son, don't think too much now. That *tch must have relied on dumb luck to have been able to break through to the 8th level True Essence realm. Faced with such a realm gap, it's understandable why you couldn't defeat her. It's not your fault. Chen Juanhao quickly patted Chen Ping's back and slowly comforted him. Puff. Hearing this, Chen Ping widened his eyes and spat out a mouthful of blood. What? She's reached the 8th level of the True Essence realm. Chen Ping's body trembled violently, and his eyes filled with despair. In the next second, a slight cracking sound could be heard. He suddenly felt that something in his dantian had shattered. This was not some bodily organ, but his Tao heart. Not only had she reached the True Essence realm, but the 8th level of the True Essence realm. This was truly beyond his wildest imaginations. So the clown was me. Me and my big mouth. Chen Juanhao could not help but curse when he saw this. It was all his fault for being too anxious. He had wanted to comfort his precious son, but he did not expect his words to backfire on him. Chen Ping, calm your mind. At this moment, a deep voice rumbled. The leader of the Mad Saber sect had appeared in front of Chen Ping at some point in time. Sir, I'm begging you to save my son, I'm begging you. When Chen Juanhao saw the leader of the Mad Saber sect appear, his eyes immediately revealed a look of surprise and joy, and he hurriedly pleaded with the latter. Don't worry, I will do my best. The leader of the Mad Saber sect nodded. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, an invisible force immediately helped Chen Ping up. The hands of the leader of the Mad Saber sect were suffused with a gentle white force, which gradually adhered itself to Chen Ping's back, gradually restoring his vitality. Although Chen Ping's current situation was indeed precarious, it was not difficult to resolve for a core formation realm cultivator like him. In just a short while, Chen Ping's injuries had stabilized. Damn *tch. You actually dared to injure my precious son. Today, I will cripple your cultivation. In the future, you will be my Chen family's slave and serve my son well. After seeing that Chen Ping's injuries had stabilized, Chen Juanhao stood up and stared at Li Qinyan with a fierce gaze. Father, not only do I want Li Qinyan to be my slave, but the women beside her must also come and serve me. Once Chen Ping's injuries had stabilized, he quickly looked at you and the others. Not only did he want Li Qinyan, but he also wanted you, Huang Ling, and the others as his concubines. Just now, his Tao heart had been completely crushed by Li Qinyan's strength. Now, he wanted to enslave Li Qinyan and the others to restore his Tao heart. Okay, son, I will capture them now. Chen Juanhao saw that his precious son's face had become a lot brighter, so he quickly agreed to do it. You are so young, yet you are so ruthless. Today, I will teach you a good lesson on behalf of your teacher. After the leader of the Mad Saber sect stabilized Chen Ping's injuries, he took out a pill and got the latter to consume it. Then, he slowly stood up and looked at Li Qinyan with an ice-cold gaze. Although Chen Ping's character was not good, he was still his disciple. Now that someone had personally injured his disciple in front of him, if he did not seek justice for the latter, what would happen to his reputation if the news got out. Of course, this was indeed an accident. After all, Chen Juanhao also did not expect that Li Qingyan's cultivation had reached the 8th level of the true essence realm. Although the leader of the Mad Saber sect had already noticed Li Qingyan's cultivation level earlier, he did not know her identity. After all, according to the information Chen Juanhao gave earlier, Li Qingyan's cultivation had only reached the 7th level of the Qi transformation realm. Therefore, Chen Ping's current injury could be said to be related to their combined negligence. However, how could they admit that it was their fault? They would let Li Qingyan take the blame. Not good, we're doomed this time. Although we don't know why Li Qingyan cultivation increased by such a huge margin, regardless of whether she is a true essence realm or a purple spirit realm cultivator, there is no way she can resist a core formation realm powerhouse. The leader of the Mad Saber sect seems to be really angry too. It's over now. An 8th level true essence realm cultivator who is not even 18 years old. She is truly a monster. Is she really going to die today? When the cultivators in the stands saw this scene, a complicated feeling arose in their hearts. They could sigh inwardly as they did not dare to confront the leader of the Mad Saber sect head on. The strength that Li Qingyan displayed had indeed shocked everyone. No one had expected the former to have actually stepped into the 8th level of the true essence realm. As the eldest daughter of the Li family, and also the favored daughter of the younger generation of Jiangqing City, Li Qingyan's strength had always been the focus of everyone's attention. Moreover, Li Qingyan's strength on the surface had indeed only been at the 7th level of the Qi transformation realm. Now that she had revealed the terrifying strength of an 8th level true essence realm cultivator, it naturally shocked everyone. Moreover, when they saw that Li Qingyan had heavily injured Chen Ping with one sword strike, many cultivators could not help but secretly cheer. However, what made everyone feel regret was that Li Qingyan had offended a core formation realm super powerhouse because of this. However, the moment the leader of the Mad Saber sect finished speaking, an indifferent voice suddenly rang out. Who do you think you are? How dare you even think of touching my disciple? Although the voice was not loud, everyone heard it clearly. Who is it? When the leader of the Mad Saber sect heard those words, his expression changed drastically. A sense of vigilance arose in his heart. This was an expert, an absolute top-notch expert. Moreover, it was an existence whose presence he could not even sense. Who is acting so sneakily? Hurry up and come out. Chen Juanhao's expression also changed when he saw this, and his body tensed up. Everyone looked around in confusion, but found nothing. Teacher! Teacher! However, the next second, two voices filled with pleasant surprise suddenly were heard from the direction of the Li family's group. A young man with an extraordinarily handsome face, sword-like eyebrows, and starry eyes suddenly appeared beside you. Among the cultivators present, only the leader of the Mad Saber sect had sensed Yi Xian's aura. If the others had not heard his voice, they would not have been able to react. Chapter 63. So what if I'm arrogant? Got a problem with that? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 63. So what if I'm arrogant? Got a problem with that? Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Teacher. Could it be that this person is Li Qingyan's teacher? Wow! He's so handsome and so young. F***ck. I feel a little jealous for some reason. When everyone's eyes fell on Yi Xian, they could not help but be amazed. Were it not for Li Qingyan and you calling him teacher, they would have noticed Yi Xian's presence. When Li Qingyan and you saw Yi Xian appear, they revealed brilliant smiles, which were like blooming flowers, stunning the crowd. However, the crowd was not in the mood to admire the beauty of Li Qingyan and you. Their gazes were all focused on Yi Xian. When they realized that they could not sense any aura fluctuations from the latter, their expressions changed drastically. He was Li Qingyan's teacher. How could there be no aura fluctuations? Was this even possible? This undoubtedly meant that the latter could easily escape the detection of their spiritual sense. After Yi Xian appeared, Li Qinyan and Yu's slightly nervous expressions loosened up. Although they knew that their teacher would definitely appear, when their teacher was not by their side, they could not help but feel a little uneasy. After all, the leader of the Mad Saber sect was not a minor character, but a true top-tier core formation realm powerhouse. Most importantly, the other party was only a few hundred meters away from them. If the other party wanted to kill them, he could probably do so in an instant. In fact, the reason why Yi Xian had not arrived in advance was because he was refining the 7th grade Nirvana pill in the cultivation room. However, just now, he had completed the refining another portion of the medicinal effects of the 7th grade Nirvana pill. His cultivation level had advanced to the middle stage of the Golden Core realm, and he was only half a step away from reaching the advanced stage of the Golden Core realm. Of course, even though he was in secluded cultivation, he split a portion of his spiritual sense to keep an eye on the situation outside. He was very clear about what had happened on the arena platform. Moreover, he had long since known that the leader of the Mad Saber sect had arrived in Jiangqing City. However, when he discovered that the latter had arrived in Jiangqing City, he had already entered secluded cultivation, and thus could not be bothered to pay attention to it. After all, for Yi Xian, the most urgent thing was to reach the middle stage of the Golden CPRE realm. Of course, if the leader of the Mad Saber sect really attacked Li Qinyan and the others during this period, Yi Xian would not have hesitated to give up on breaking through and save them. However, luck was on his side. He had already exited secluded cultivation before the leader of the Mad Saber sect even attacked Li Qinyan and the others. Whoosh! Yi Xian stepped forward slightly and appeared in front of Li Qinyan in an instant. Seeing this, the leader of the Mad Saber sect could not help but narrow his eyes. This guy was so fast. His strength must have far surpassed his own. Was he at the middle stage of the Shudan realm or the advanced stage? You. Who are you? Chen Ping's gaze fell on Yi Xian on the ring as he asked that question. However, because of this, his injuries worsened and he spat out a mouthful of blood while grimacing. From Chen Ping's perspective, no matter how strong this young man was, there would still be an upper limit. After all, he looked to be only around 19 years old. It was impossible for him to be a top-tier core formation realm expert, right? As long as he was not a core formation realm expert, his master could kill him with a single slap. In the entire Great Qian dynasty, there was only one genius cultivator who had become extremely famous for his monstrous achievements at such a young age, and that was Yi Xian of the Qinyan sect. There could not be a second one, right? Seeing this, the leader of the Mad Saber sect's face changed drastically. You little b****, what nonsense are you spouting? If I had known earlier, I would have slapped you to death myself and would not have bothered to save you. However, Yi Xian did not even pay attention to Chen Ping. Instead, his gaze fell on the leader of the Mad Saber sect as he continued speaking with an indifferent expression. Were you trying to discipline my disciple just now? May I know who you are? After learning of the other party's terrifying strength, the leader of the Mad Saber sect's expression turned vigilant, and he cautiously inquired. When everyone saw this scene, they could not help but stare with their eyes wide open, their pupils were filled with shock. Had this fellow not been acting very arrogantly just a moment ago? The incomparably terrifying spiritual pressure of a core formation realm expert had even enveloped the entire arena, scaring everyone to the point that they did not even dare to release a fart. Even that incomparably powerful 6th level purple spirit realm cultivator had been directly slapped to death by the other party. Yet now this guy was actually behaving so subserviently to a young man. He even cupped his fists and saluted toward the young man. Did this mean that the other party's strength was at least the same level as the leader of the Mad Saber sect? I was asking you a question. What gave you the gall to reply to my question with another question? Seeing this, Yi Xian's gaze turned cold. This fellow had just wanted to make a move on his disciple, but now he was backtracking and did not dare to admit it. Don't be too arrogant. Seeing this, the leader of the Mad Saber sect also felt a little angry. So what if your cultivation is at the middle stage of the Shudan realm? Although I'm not your match in terms of strength, cultivators below the true core realm might not be able to kill me. No matter what, I'm also a top-notch expert at the early stage of the Shudan realm. I have my own sense of dignity and pride. This young man even shouted at him in front of so many cultivators. Was he not clearly disregarding him? Was he not clearly disregarding the Mad Saber sect? Although he was slightly surprised by Yi Xian's strength, it was impossible for him to lower his head because of this. I am arrogant. Is that something you have a problem with? Yi Xian smiled. His incomparably strong spiritual pressure gushed out and instantly enveloped the leader of the Mad Saber sect. He, so what if you called me arrogant? I can kill you without lifting a single finger. Boom. The expression of the leader of the Mad Saber sect contorted. It felt like a mountain weighing hundreds of thousands of pounds was weighing down upon him. The next second, his legs started trembling, and then he crashed into the arena platform. At the same time, cracks appeared on the extremely hard arena platform, and then it broke into pieces. How is this possible? The leader of the Mad Saber sect had a shocked and dumbfounded expression on his face. He had been wrong. How could the opponent be a mere middle-stage Shudan realm cultivator? Someone with such terrifying strength had at least reached the true core realm. Moreover, it was very likely that the opponent was only half a step away from the peak of the true core realm. Only such a terrifying expert could use mere spiritual pressure to suppress him. Chapter 64. He's Yi Xian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 64. He's Yi Xian. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The leader of the Mad Saber sect gritted his teeth as he tried to use his core formation realm cultivation to resist the spiritual pressure. However, just as his spiritual power started to surge forth, he was suddenly strangled by an invisible hand, forcefully stuffing his spiritual power back into his dantian. Do you think you can resist? Seeing this, a sneer hung on the corners of Yi Xian's mouth. Waves of power like a vast ocean suddenly swept out. The power of a golden core realm cultivator was displayed. After a cultivator stepped into the core formation realm, the Shudan in the dantian would turn into a real core. When that real core turned into a golden core, the cultivator's strength would undergo a qualitative change. In short, the gap between a golden core realm cultivator and a Shudan realm cultivator was even more terrifying than the gap between a Shudan realm cultivator and a peak purple spirit realm cultivator. Boom! In an instant, the arena platform under the leader of the Mad Saber sect's feet was turned into dust. At the same time, the mountain-like spiritual power engulfed him. The leader of the Mad Saber sect suddenly felt his bones cracking. Puff! Under Yi Xian's terrifying golden core power, the leader of the Mad Saber sect's Shudan power was forcibly suppressed back into his dantian. The latter could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Senior, spare my life. Senior, please spare my life. At that moment, the leader of the Mad Saber sect's face had turned extremely pale, and a premonition of death arose in his heart. He was truly incomparably terrified. He had never seen or heard of such a terrifying cultivator. This suffocating feeling was too terrifying. He suddenly realized that this young man was not a Shudan or true core realm cultivator. He was a terrifying golden core realm cultivator. He was a top-tier powerhouse who represented the upper limit of cultivators in the Great Qian dynasty. The other party could crush him to death easily, just like how he had crushed the Zhu family head earlier. What? Didn't you hear my earlier question? Yi Xian looked indifferently at the leader of the Mad Saber sect, who had just spat out a mouthful of blood. The latter knelt on the ground, unable to withstand the terrifying spiritual pressure Yi Xian was exerting on him. Blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth and stained his clothes. How could I dare to have such intentions? I am to be blamed for being blind and spouting nonsense. Please don't blame me. I hope that you will forgive me, Senior. At that moment, the leader of the Mad Saber sect, who had been kneeling on the broken arena platform, hurriedly crawled toward Yi Xian. First, he begged Yi Xian for mercy, and then he looked at Li Qinyan and the others. No matter what, he could only pray in his heart that Li Qinyan did not hold a grudge against him. After all, he had wanted to kill her just a moment ago. At this moment, he no longer cared about his dignity as a core formation realm cultivator. Just now, he had clearly sensed a trace of killing intent from Yi Xian's gaze, and the spiritual pressure he exuded was still rising. What did this mean? It meant that the other party's strength was far above what it was currently. Just how terrifying was this guy? The leader of the Mad Saber sect was terrified. Under the suppression of absolute strength, he had no chance to escape. If the other party really wanted to kill him, he could only wait for death. Compared to his own life, what did mere dignity count for? This Chen Ping really deserves to die. He actually caused me so much trouble. The leader of the Mad Saber sect was filled with resentment toward Chen Ping. He directly cursed the other party's ancestors for tens of thousands of generations. Had they not told him that Li Qinyan was only a 7th level Qi transformation realm cultivator? Did they not say that the strongest cultivator in the Li family was the 7th level purple spirit realm expert, Li Zhenyang? Why did they neglect to mention Li Qinyan's teacher? This senior's strength was so terrifying. It was absolutely impossible for him to be an unknown persona. However, at this moment, the leader of the Mad Saber sect was also a little puzzled. In the entire Great Qian dynasty, only Yi Xian of the Qinyan sect had achieved amazing results at such a young age, but even Yi Xian did not have such strength. Spare you. If you want me to spare you, it's possible. Yi Xian looked at him indifferently, and the mountain-like spiritual pressure instantly disappeared. Seeing this, the leader of the Mad Saber sect could not help but sigh in relief. When the surrounding cultivators saw this scene, they were petrified and held their breaths. Was this still the same King arrogant leader of the Mad Saber sect? Was he still the same peak expert who had casually crushed a 6th level purple spirit realm cultivator? The incomparably tough arena platform had long been reduced to dust. The clothes of the leader of the Mad Saber sect were stained with blood, and the aura around his body was erratic and weak. However, what shocked everyone the most was that this power, that could instantly suppress a core formation realm cultivator, and even heavily injure him, did not affect any of the cultivators in the audience stands. Undoubtedly, this could only mean one thing. The gap between the two parties' realms was too big. That young man was able to easily crush the leader of the Mad Saber sect, and his control over his own strength had reached an astonishing level. Gulp. Everyone could not help but swallow hard. Their foreheads were covered in sweat, and their eyes were filled with shock. They had thought that the leader of the Mad Saber sect was the strongest cultivator they had ever seen. After all, the former had just casually crushed a 6th level purple spirit realm cultivator. However, Yi Xian's appearance had now shown them the meaning of absolute strength. This was too terrifying. Hearing Yi Xian's words, the leader of the Mad Saber sect was delighted. However, his legs were still kneeling on the ground, as he waited for the follow-up sentence. After all, Yi Xian's mood would determine whether he lived or died. Someone wants to forcefully marry my disciple. They even want to destroy the family that my disciple belongs to. As her teacher, do you think that I, Yi Xian, should interfere? I don't want to see them in the future. Do you know what to do? As soon as he finished speaking, everyone's expressions changed drastically, and they stared at him with wide eyes. This This young man was actually Yi Xian, the strongest genius cultivator of the great Qian dynasty, and an existence with unparalleled talent. My God, I actually encountered this legendary genius. Countless young cultivators revealed excited expressions. One had to know that Yi Xian was the nightmare of the young genius cultivators of the great Qian dynasty. He was like a mountain that could not be climbed. However, in the eyes of many ordinary young cultivators, Yi Xian was like a lighthouse. He was their idol when it came to cultivation, and an existence that they admired greatly. At the age of 20, he had entered the core formation realm and crushed countless young genius cultivators of the great Qian dynasty. The young cultivators could not help but clench their fists. The fear on their faces instantly turned into excitement. They had not expected to see their idol, and from such a close distance too. Chapter 65. The dust has settled. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 65. The dust has settled. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Yi Xian's avid fans jumped up in excitement and waved frantically at him. It was as if they were saying, "Appa, look over here." They also did not expect Yi Xian to be so handsome, and his every move exuded a domineering presence. These fans of his had long fantasized about the day that they would be able to see Yi Xian in person, but they also knew that this was basically a pipe dream. Unexpectedly, this dream actually came true today. Yi Xian was actually in a remote place like Jiangqing City. While countless cultivators were excited, Chen Ping's face was filled with despair, and he directly collapsed to the ground. Yi Xian. Li Qingyan's teacher is actually Yi Xian. It's over, it's over. The Chen family is really doomed. No wonder that woman was able to raise her cultivation level within such a short period of time. Yi Xian alone was not an existence that the Mad Saber sect could contend against, let alone the Qingyan sect behind him. Don't worry, senior. You won't have to lift a finger to do anything regarding this small matter. I will settle it myself. Seeing this, the leader of the Mad Saber sect heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Yi Xian had left a way out for him. At the same time, his heart was filled with joy. Fortunately, he had not impulsively attacked Li Qingyan earlier. Otherwise, what awaited him would only be death. Yi Xian was a terrifying golden core realm powerhouse. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would never have believed that this guy had pulled wool over the eyes of the entire great Qian dynasty. Hidden underneath the facade of a middle-stage Shudan realm cultivator was the terrifying strength of a golden core realm expert. Most importantly, this guy was only 20 years old. Even the first king of the great Qian dynasty had not reached the golden core realm at that age, right? The leader of the Mad Saber sect did not know who was stronger or weaker. However, from now on, Yi Xian had become the person he could not afford to offend. This guy's potential was too terrifying. In less than 10 years, he alone would be equivalent to a top-tier sect. He could even reach heights that the cultivators of the great Qian dynasty had never reached in hundreds of years, the Unity realm. Rather than provoke Yi Xian, he would rather offend a top-tier sect. Chen Ping, don't blame me. It's your fault for being blind and offending Yi Xian. Only by killing you can I escape from the gates of hell. Thinking this, the gaze of the leader of the Mad Saber sect suddenly turned cold. In fact, he did not really like his disciple much. The reason he had accepted Chen Ping as a disciple was to use his family's power. Chen Ping looked at the murderous eyes of the leader of the Mad Saber sect and despaired. Chen Juanhao, who was not far away, also started to tremble violently. His heart filled with dread. Yi Xian, the cycle of karma will punish you, you will definitely, Chen Juanhao shouted in despair. Seeing this, the expression leader of the Mad Saber sect changed. A terrifying power suddenly swept out, and before the other party could finish speaking, it directly hit the two people. Bang! Bang! The terrifying power of a core formation realm cultivator wreaked havoc on the two people, which turned them into a bloody mist. Seeing this, everyone immediately fell silent. Although the leader of the Mad Saber sect had been crushed by Yi Xian, the former was still a core formation realm cultivator in the end. Killing a purple spirit realm cultivator was a piece of cake. Was this what a powerhouse was like? A single sentence could decide the life and death of a family that had existed for hundreds of years. Countless cultivators fell silent. They felt their blood boiling. This was Yi Xian, the strongest cultivator of the younger generation of the great Qian dynasty. The leader of the Mad Saber sect did not stop there. His spiritual power erupted and he killed all of the elders of the Qin family around the arena. Then, he took a step forward and turned into a ray of light, heading toward the Qin family's residence. He was going to wipe out the Qin family today. Let's go. Seeing this, Yi Xian waved his sleeve and left with Li Qinyan and the others. The audience's eyes fell on the messy arena platform. They were all silent. After an unknown amount of time, the silence was broken. What? What terrifying power! That guy is really strong. Is that how strong Yi Xian is? Is this how strong the strongest genius cultivator in the great Qian dynasty is? The leader of the Mad Saber sect was nothing to him. Today was a day that would be recorded in Jiangqing City's history books. The Zhu family, one of the three major families in Jiangqing City, had been destroyed. A top-tier core formation realm powerhouse, the leader of the Mad Saber sect, had personally descended upon Jiangqing City. Not only that, Yi Xian, the strongest genius cultivator of the younger generation of the great Qian dynasty, had also descended upon Jiangqing City and used absolute strength to forcefully crush the leader of the Mad Saber sect. The latter directly threw away his dignity and knelt on the ground to beg for mercy. Then, he personally killed his disciple and his disciple's family. This was the biggest thing that had ever happened in Jiangqing City throughout the past 100 years. Many cultivators witnessed the terrifying power of core formation realm cultivators. With Li Qinyan becoming Yi Xian's disciple, the Li family once again became the strongest family in Jiangqing City. Moreover, under Yi Xian's protection, the Li family's position would not be shaken. After all, the two words Yi Xian were more intimidating than those ordinary core formation realm cultivators. It could not be helped, right? He had reached the core formation realm at the age of 20. From this, it could be seen that his future was limitless. In addition to this, Li Qinyan had reached the 8th level of the true essence realm within a very short period of time under his tutelage. All in all, the cultivators of Jiangqing City passed down hundreds of versions of the story. Every version was amazing, and the former's popularity as the idol of countless young cultivators was reaffirmed. Everyone was eager to become Yi Xian's disciple. Even if they could not become his disciple, they still wanted to be an IN.name disciple or something. In other words, if Yi Xian really wanted to recruit IN.name disciples, the countless young cultivators of Jiangqing City would probably line up in droves to seize this opportunity. Those older cultivators could not help but stroke their own beards. Does Elder Yi Xian lack a butler? I'm an excellent cook. Of course, these were only fleeting thoughts and dreams in everyone's minds. Because of this, Jiangqing City became lively again, especially near the Li family's residence. There were many young girls who strolled around the Li family's residence all day, hoping to impress Yi Xian with their beauty. Unfortunately, this was an exercise in futility. Chapter 66. They are really good at bragging. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 66. They are really good at bragging. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. After Yi Xian left with you and the others, he did not return to the Qinyan sect immediately. Instead, he chose to set off tomorrow. In the meantime, the leader of the Mad Saber sect used lightning-fast methods to completely destroy the Qin family. After completely destroying the Qin family, the leader of the Mad Saber sect hurriedly ran to the Li family's residence to see Yi Xian. After obtaining the latter's permission, he left as if he had been granted amnesty. Then, the leader of the Mad Saber sect used all of his strength to flee the city frantically. Tomorrow, we'll set off for the Qingyun sect. The sect competition should be starting soon. Yi Xian looked at his two disciples and said slowly. Indeed, we've already been away from the sect for quite a while. Yu replied emotionally. Although they had only been away from the sect for less than 10 days, it felt like a long time had passed. Moreover, when she thought of her own matters, she felt that this period of time was even more incredulous. She had suddenly become Yi Xian's disciple, and the latter had performed spiritual power infusion for her. Then, he gave her high-level cultivation methods and martial techniques. He was even generous enough to give her a powerful mount. In addition, he brought her back to Linshur village to take revenge. After that, he traveled to Jiangqing city and took Li Qinyan as his disciple. Although not much time had passed, she felt as if she had lived for a lifetime. It was completely different from the boring days she had in the Qingyun sect. Within this period of time, she miraculously became a genius cultivator who, from the 4th level of the refinement realm, had awakened the sword jade physique and become a 5th level true essence realm cultivator. Of course, Yi Xian's cultivation had also undergone great changes. Although Yu was not sure of Yi Xian's current cultivation level, her intuition told her that her teacher's strength was very likely to have reached the same level as the sect leader. If Yu had known that Yi Xian had already reached the middle stage of the Golden Core realm, she would probably have been left speechless. Moreover, she was sure that if the outside world learned of Yi Xian's lightning-fast cultivation speed, the entire Great Qian dynasty would be shocked. As the sun rose and the first drops of morning dew condensed, Yi Xian brought Yu, Li Qinyan, and the others back to the Qingyun sect. Just a few days after Yi Xian left Jiangqing city, a group of cultivators with mysterious identities came to Jiangqing city. They dressed very normally and pretended to be ordinary mercenaries who had wandered over. Therefore, they did not attract much attention. They were all here to do the same thing, which was to inquire about Yi Xian in the various restaurants and markets. They were all members of the Xianin sect. Isn't the leader of the Mad Saber sect a core formation realm expert? Why would he be suppressed by Yi Xian? A middle-aged man dressed in black placed his wine cup down slowly. He asked in disbelief as he looked at the cultivators who were discussing Yi Xian's deeds fervently. Is this your first time here? As soon as he finished speaking, a cultivator with thick eyebrows and thin eyes looked at the middle-aged man indifferently. In the entire restaurant, this person was the one who described Yi Xian's deeds in the most detail. Moreover, in the process of describing everything, he exuded a sense of joy, as if he himself was the person in question. As he narrated Yi Xian's deeds, he imagined himself as the protagonist. With a wave of his hand, he completely suppressed the leader of the Mad Saber sect. Once he heard the middle-aged man's questions, his eyes lit up. Then he raised his wine glass with a natural expression and walked toward the middle-aged man. The cultivator sat down next to the middle-aged man, poured himself a glass of wine, and drank it in one gulp. He first let out a comfortable sigh, and then slowly said, "Speaking of this, we have to first discuss the differences between the core formation realm and other realms. As everyone knows, the refinement realm, Qi transformation realm, true essence realm, and purple spirit realm, from low to high, are divided into 10 levels. However, the division of the core formation realm is different. The core formation realm is divided into the Shudan realm, true core realm, and golden core realm. Each realm is divided into early, middle, and advanced stages. Although the leader of the Mad Saber sect is powerful, he is only an early-stage Shudan realm cultivator. But Yi Xian is different. His strength has already reached the true core realm. No, it should be said that he has stepped into the golden core realm. The gap between a golden core realm expert and a true core realm expert is like a 10th level purple spirit realm cultivator facing a 1st level true essence realm cultivator. As such, there was no way the leader of the Mad Saber sect could beat Yi Xian. It is precisely because of this that Yi Xian could easily suppress the leader of the Mad Saber sect with a simple raise of his hand. Not only did the cultivator describe Yi Xian's deeds to the middle-aged man, he also vividly described the scene of that day with body language. Hearing this, the middle-aged man looked outwardly interested, but he sneered inwardly. It was really ridiculous. How could Yi Xian be a golden core realm cultivator? This guy still did not know what the golden core realm represented, right? He had long seen through this cultivator's strength. This person was just a 6th level Qi transformation realm cultivator. How could a Qi transformation realm cultivator sense the cultivation realm differences of a core formation realm cultivator? Perhaps he had heard about the division of realms within the core formation realm from some unknown source. Now, based on the happenings in Jiangqing City, he was spouting nonsense about Yi Xian being a golden core realm cultivator. Was it not all just an excuse to get a free glass of wine from someone else? This middle-aged man was also one of the sub-leaders of the Xianin sect, a powerful purple spirit realm cultivator. Most importantly, he was well aware of Yi Xian's serious injury. For him to be able to survive the 5 poison powder was already a miracle. How could he have broken through to the golden core realm? As a sub-leader of the Xianin sect, he was responsible for collecting information on the affairs of the other top sections. How could he not know these secrets? Half a month ago, Yi Xian had only been a cultivator at the middle stage of the Shudan realm. He had been seriously injured and was on the verge of death. How long had it been since then? Not only had his injury healed, but he had also directly broken through from the middle stage of the Shudan realm to the golden core realm. If this was true, he would eat feces. The middle-aged man inwardly denied the cultivator's speculation. His guess was not wrong. This cultivator really did not know Yi Xian's cultivation, and he was indeed talking nonsense. However, despite his muddle-headed drivel, he had somehow correctly guessed Yi Xian's true cultivation level. The middle-aged man suppressed the impatience in his heart and listened to the cultivator describe Yi Xian's deeds before leaving. A moment later, the middle-aged man met up with the other sub-leaders in the wilderness. The few of them communicated with each other and discovered that the versions they had all heard were different. Some of the versions were quite normal, but some were outrageous. The most exaggerated one was that someone had actually praised Yi Xian's strength to the heavens, saying that his cultivation level had already surpassed everyone in the Great Qian dynasty. Even the Great Qian royal family had to retreat in awe when facing Yi Xian. Seeing this scene, the middle-aged man further verified his previous guess. The people in this small place are like frogs at the bottom of a well. Their cultivation is average, but they are quite accomplished in bragging. In the entire Jiangqing city, the strongest person has only reached the 7th level of the purple spirit realm. How knowledgeable can they be? I'm afraid that most cultivators only saw the terrifying strength of a core formation realm cultivator for the first time, right? The few of them looked at each other with sneers hanging from the corners of their mouths. Chapter 67. Going further and further down. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 67. Going further and further down the road of imagination. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. However, we have also confirmed that Yi Xian is indeed still alive. We must inform the elders of this as soon as possible. It seems that Elder Li's beloved disciples may very well have fallen at Yi Xian's hands. This debt must be settled. After confirming the news that Yi Xian was still alive, the sub-leaders of the Xianin sect rushed back to the sect. Of course, as for whether Yi Xian had killed Duan Wujie and Duan Wui, there would be other sub-leaders who would specifically investigate that matter. If they could not find any evidence to prove that Yi Xian was the murderer, they would still probably put the blame on Yi Xian. In a magnificent hall in the Xianin sect. As expected, Yi Xian is still alive. When Li Wuji heard the news, he narrowed his eyes. Menace filled his gaze. But how did this guy neutralize the 5 poisons powder? Gouda frowned. The previous sub-leader had already sent news back, and told Li Wuji and Gouda of Yi Xian's deeds in Jiangqing City in detail. It seems that the murderer who killed Wu Jia and Wu Yi is this guy for sure. Li Wuji's eyes turned cold. In the entire Great Qian dynasty, other than the Qian Gate and the royal family of the Great Qian dynasty, no other force dared to provoke the Xianin, let alone kill one of their elders' personal disciples. Who else could it be but Yi Xian, who previously was in a conflict with the Xianin sect? Back then, the elders of the Xianin sect had besieged Yi Xian. He had been seriously injured and on the verge of death after that battle. It was impossible for the other party to not take revenge after forming such a great enmity with the Xianin sect. However, according to the news, Yi Xian suppressed the leader of the Mad Saber sect in a seemingly effortless manner. Could it be that his cultivation has not regressed? Gouda rubbed his chin as he pondered this matter, his eyes were filled with doubt. It was already a miracle that Yi Xian had survived the 5 poisons powder. It was almost certain that his cultivation had regressed. In that case, how did he manage to suppress the leader of the Mad Saber sect? Humph, maybe this guy's luck is too heaven-defying, and he completely eliminated the sequelae of the 5 poisons powder. As for the Mad Saber sect, that's just a small second-rate sect. The strongest cultivator there has just stepped into the core formation realm, so how can someone like that resist Yi Xian, who is in the middle stage of the Shudan realm? Of course, the so-called suppression here probably does not refer to Yi Xian himself, but the Qingyun sect behind him. Faced with a top-tier sect, the leader of the Mad Saber sect was forced to admit defeat. It's impossible for Yi Xian to have a breakthrough in cultivation after miraculously surviving, right? To easily suppress a Shudan realm cultivator, his strength must have reached the true core realm at the very least. But only less than half a month has passed since Yi Xian was poisoned by the 5 poisons powder. Even if he is supremely talented, it's impossible for him to achieve such a feat, and those people saying that Yi Xian has reached the golden core realm are just spewing utter nonsense. A cold smile hung on Li Wuji's lips. It was impossible for him to believe such a ridiculous thing. How was it possible for anyone to directly break through from the middle stage of the Shudan realm to the golden core realm in just half a month's time? Of course, he also had his own speculations regarding this matter. To reach such a realm, the only possibility was that he had been infused with the spiritual power of a super expert. However, this possibility was struck off by Li Wuji. For a super expert to infuse enough spiritual power into Yi Xian's body for him to go from the middle stage of the Shudan realm into the gold core realm, then that super expert had to have reached the unity realm at the very least. Throughout the history of the entire Great Qian dynasty, it had been hundreds of years since the appearance of the last unity realm expert. If Yi Xian really got to know such a super expert, why would he need to ask the other party to perform spiritual power infusion on him? He could just directly ask the other party to destroy the Xianin sect. Besides, anyone who could step into the unity realm was very like an old monster. How could they sacrifice themselves and their hard-earned cultivation to help others? After eliminating this possibility, Li Wuji could not help but think of another possibility that might have allowed Yi Xian to survive. It was very likely that this guy had obtained a treasure left behind by a Unity Realm super expert by chance, and it was very likely that it was left behind when the other party was on the verge of death. Could it be that this fellow had fallen off a cliff after being deeply poisoned and obtained a peerless cultivation technique? Although this idea was a little ridiculous, it was not impossible. After all, although the 5 poisons powder was powerful, it was still useless when confronted with a supreme Unity Realm expert. If the other party had left behind some kind of antidote pill, the poison would have been easily negated. Thinking this, Li Wuji's gaze hardened, and his eyes were filled with greed. If the other party really obtained an inheritance left behind by a Unity Realm super expert, it was probably not as simple as a simple detoxification pill. Perhaps there were even more advanced cultivation methods and martial techniques in Yi Xian's possession. If he could steal them from him, he might be able to take this opportunity to step into the Golden Core realm. That's true. In a small place like Jiangqing City, most of the cultivators are weak as hell. How knowledgeable could they be? Gu Da's furrowed brows relaxed as he thought of this. At the same time, he interrupted Li Wuji's train of thought. However, as long as this guy is still alive, the danger to the Xianin sect still exists. If the matter of the sect collecting the blood essence and qi is exposed, the royal family will definitely be furious. Li Wuji said. The royal family would definitely be furious about them massacring common people and the collection of blood essence and qi. Although the Xianin sect would not be destroyed because of this, the elders would probably have to step down from their positions as elders. Otherwise, how else could they appease the anger of the royal family of the great Xian dynasty? If Yi Xian really killed Duan Wujie and Duan Wui, he must have found out about the collection of qi and blood essence by the sect. But why didn't he report it to the royal family of the great Xian dynasty? Thinking this, Li Wuji's facial expression changed. He did not understand why Yi Xian would choose to hide it from them. Did he think that he could take revenge on his own without relying on the power of the royal family of the great Xian dynasty? All of a sudden, Li Wuji's eyes lit up, and a possibility suddenly appeared in his mind. It was highly possible that Yi Xian wanted to use the collection of qi and blood essence as a bargaining chip with the Xianin sect. That way, he could start a massacre and slaughter the personal disciples of the Xianin sect at will. If the elders came to settle the score, the other party would definitely expose the matter of the collection of qi and blood essence. That matter was taboo to the great Xian dynasty, so the Xianin sect would have to swallow their anger. What a good plan. Li Wuji's gaze suddenly turned cold, and he was even more certain of his speculation. If Yi Xian knew what this guy was thinking, he would probably burst into laughter. Humph. You can stay arrogant for a few days first. After the patriarch exits secluded cultivation, the Qingyun sect will no longer exist. Li Wuji's thoughts were dripping with venom. He wanted to get rid of Yi Xian quickly. Not only had Yi Xian killed 2 of his personal disciples, he was holding on to the secret of the Xianin sect collecting qi and blood essence. Yi Xian deserved to die. The most important thing was that Yi Xian's talent was extremely monstrous. Now that the other party had been completely cured of the 5 poisons powder, if he was allowed to grow, he would definitely become a great threat to the Xianin sect in the future. Only by killing him completely could the Xianin sect rest easy. Chapter 68. Heart-Seeking Fruit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 68. Heart-Seeking Fruit. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Brother Gu, if I remember correctly, the Qingyun sect, the Huoye sect, and the Shenshan sect are about to hold a competition, right? At this moment, Li Wuji's gaze landed on Guda, who was beside him. That's right. There's less than a month before the 3 great sects competition. Guda said after thinking for a moment. This is an opportunity. We can take advantage of the competition to prepare a surprise for the Qingyun sect. Li Wuji sneered. Gu Di was momentarily stunned, but then his face turned gleeful. Brother Li, you're right. After the patriarch ends his secluded cultivation, Yi Xian and the entire Qingyun sect will be history. Yi Xian's talent is too monstrous. As long as he isn't dead, I won't be able to sleep at night. Gu De stroked his beard and smiled. They had already summoned all the disciples who were collecting qi and blood essence in the outside world because the supply was sufficient for the patriarch to use. There was no need to collect them anymore. Moreover, the longer those personal disciples stayed in the outside world, the greater the risk of them dying at Yi Xian's hands. According to the news from the patriarch, he would break through in less than a month. At that time, the Great Qian dynasty would have one more top-tier powerhouse whose cultivation had reached the peak of the core formation realm. The patriarch would then only need to make a slight move, and he would be able to easily destroy the Qinyan sect. Yi Xian would also die. They would blame the death of their personal disciples on Yi Xian. The Qinyan sect was extremely protective, so they would not hand over Yi Xian. At that time, the Xianin sect would be able to attack the Qinyan sect in a justified manner. Then, since the two sects would be at war with each other, the patriarch would be able to justifiably join the fray. That's right. This was what Li Wuji and Guda had in mind. As long as they told the patriarch that Yi Xian had learned about the sect's collection of qi and blood essence, the patriarch would definitely kill him before he could even reveal the secret. This matter is too important. We still need to discuss it with the others. Then, Li Wuji and Guda left the main hall and went to find the other elders. Yi Xian, who had just returned to the Qinyan sect, was unaware that the Xianin sect had already set their eyes on him before he even moved personally to settle the score with them. However, even if he knew about the plans of the Xianin sect, he did not need to be afraid. After all, he had already entered the middle stage of the Golden Core realm and was only one step away from reaching the advanced stage of the Golden Core realm. Most importantly, his sword intent had already reached the second level. The cultivation method he practiced was the 3000 Thunder Sword technique, which was a middle-grade earth rank technique. The martial techniques and artifacts he had on hand were also extremely powerful. Besides that, he still had part of the remaining power of the 7th grade Nirvana pill in his body. Armed with all these, he would be able to suppress an advanced stage Golden Core realm cultivator. Of course, with his current strength, it would be a little difficult for him to destroy the Xianin sect. After all, the sect master of the mysterious dark sect had already reached the advanced stage of the Golden Core realm, and the power of the blood essence and qi collected by the mysterious dark sect was enormous. It was highly likely that the patriarch wanted to use this power to reach the peak of the Golden Core realm, or even break through to the Unity realm. Of course, it was highly unlikely that he could break through to the Unity realm just by relying on the power of the blood essence and qi. After all, it had been hundreds of years since a top-tier Unity realm expert had appeared in the Great Qian dynasty. The previous Unity realm cultivators had basically all left the Great Qian dynasty. Of course, it could not be ruled out that the Great Qian dynasty's royal family still had old Unity realm experts hidden within their ranks. After handing Huang Ling and Xue Min over to Lin Qing, Yi Xian went to the main hall to look for the sect leader. Elder Yi, your cultivation. When Wan Shanhai's gaze fell on Yi Xian, he narrowed his eyes, and a hint of shock flashed across his pupils. He actually discovered that his spiritual sense was unable to see through Yi Xian's cultivation level. How long had this guy left the sect? Could it be that his strength had already surpassed his own? Or was this just an illusion? For a moment, Wan Shanhai was stuck in a state of shock and disbelief. He was a middle-stage true core realm expert. Even if Yi Xian had used some sort of technique to conceal his aura, he should have noticed it. Yet now, he could not sense Yi Xian's cultivation at all. In his spiritual sense, Yi Xian was like an ordinary person, without the slightest trace of a cultivator's aura. Don't be surprised, sect leader. I just made a slight breakthrough in my aura concealing technique. Yi Xian made up a lie on the spot with a straight face. I see. Wan Shanhai revealed a flash of understanding when he heard that. He did not question the authenticity of Yi Xian's words. After all, this guy was the strongest genius of the Qinyan sect in 1,000 years. Was it not quite normal for him to have some attainments in the art of aura concealment? After I familiarize myself with controlling this power, if the sect leader is interested in learning it, you can contact me at any time. Yi Xian continued. That's great. Wan Shanhai's eyes lit up when he heard this. As everyone knew, although the sect's qi storage technique could restrain a cultivator's aura, it was still unable to completely conceal it. However, Yi Xian had succeeded. If he could also learn the technique, then he would be able to perfectly disguise himself. This way, when facing an enemy, there would be an additional uncertainty that the enemy would have to consider and deal with before choosing to fight. May I know the purpose of Elder Ye's visit? Wan Shanhai raised his head to look at Yi Xian. In his impression, the sect's strongest genius in 1,000 years was obsessed with cultivation. Unless there was something important, there was no way he would leave his own cultivation abode. Therefore, he was also quite surprised by Yi Xian's sudden appearance here. I want to ask the sect leader if there is a reward that increases a cultivator's comprehension value in the sect competition this time. Yi Xian paused at first, and then slowly said. Yes, I specially prepared a rare natural treasure called the heart-seeking fruit. I obtained it in the mystic lunar realm a few years ago. Only by obtaining first place in the sect competition can one receive this reward. Wan Shanhai said with a smile. Heart-seeking fruit. Hearing this, Yi Xian revealed an expression of realization. He had heard a little about heart-seeking fruit. It could indeed increase a cultivator's comprehension value, but would only do so by 10 points at most. Even so, it was still an extremely rare treasure that was attractive to most cultivators. After all, comprehension and bone values were basically innate. Although they could be improved through the use of heavenly treasures, the difficulty of doing so was extremely high. Most cultivators spent their entire lives trying, but failed to find a single heavenly treasure that could increase their comprehension and bone values. From this, it could be seen how rare heavenly treasures that could increase one's comprehension and bone values were. For example, Wan Shanhai had already been a cultivator for about 50 years, and he had reached the middle stage of the true core realm. He was even the sect master of the Qinyan sect. Despite all this, he had only obtained a few heavenly treasures that could increase one's comprehension value. Chapter 69. Bring back the champion rank. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 69. Bring back the champion rank. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Naturally, any heavenly treasures that could increase one's comprehension value by a large amount had long been consumed by Wan Shanhai. In comparison, the heart-seeking fruit was undoubtedly of average quality. It was precisely because of this that it was being used as a reward for the sect competition. Why don't I give out the rewards for the sect competition? Yi Xian brought up the matter naturally, but he could not help but feel a little awkward as he did this. Hearing this question, Wan Shanhai stared blankly at him. According to the rules of the sect, both the sect leader and elders had the right to give out the competition rewards to the disciples, but he still felt that Yi Xian had sprung this question on him out of nowhere. After all, from Wan Shanhai's perspective, Yi Xian was a genius who was obsessed with cultivation, so he should not be interested in things like the sect competition. Moreover, in order to focus on cultivation, he did not even take in a disciple. Could it be that Elder Yi Xian had changed after recovering from his injuries? Wan Shanhai entertained the thought. Of course, Wan Shanhai did not refuse Yi Xian's request. After all, Yi Xian did have the right to give out rewards, as long as the fairness of the rewards was guaranteed. That works too. Wan Shanhai nodded and agreed. Then, Wan Shanhai waved his sleeve, and 3 streams of light suddenly appeared in front of him. One of them was a fruit that was suffused with a thick white light, one was a pill that was covered in mysterious patterns, and the other was a long sword that was surrounded by sharp sword qi. These 3 things were the rewards for the top 3 ranks. The first place would receive the heart-seeking fruit, which had the ability to increase a cultivator's comprehension value. The second place would receive an origin condensing pill, which was a first-grade pill. It could help a cultivator quickly condense true essence power, and for cultivators who were at a bottleneck in their cultivation, it had the effect of catalyzing a breakthrough. The third place would receive the Shuiqing sword, which was a low-grade spiritual artifact. Yi Xian looked at them briefly, and then put away the 3 items. The reason why he had made this request to Wan Shanhai was because he wanted to use this opportunity to get rewards from the system. How could he miss such an obvious opportunity to gain rewards for free? The prospect of receiving a system reward by giving someone else's property to his disciples was something that made him truly happy. Of course, Wan Shanhai also had many personal disciples, and each one was extremely powerful. In Wan Shanhai's heart, one of his disciples would definitely win first place in the sect competition, and it was precisely because of this that he was willing to take out the heart-seeking fruit. The so-called sect competition was just a formality. Yi Xian also understood this, so when he made the request just now, he felt extremely awkward. He was intercepting someone else's reward. As long as he sent out Li Qinyan, Wan Shanhai's disciple would not be able to obtain first place in the competition. Although Wan Shanhai's disciple was already in the 8th level of the True Essence realm, and was only half a step away from the 9th level of the True Essence realm, Li Qinyan had the obvious advantage over him. The cultivation methods and martial techniques that Li Qinyan cultivated were all extremely high level. Most importantly, Li Qinyan's comprehension value was extremely high. Yi Xian had yet to spar and train with her. As long as Yi Xian trained Li Qinyan's actual combat experience, the latter's actual combat ability would be greatly strengthened. Therefore, the probability of Wan Shanhai's disciple defeating Li Qinyan was extremely low. Sect leader, are there any rewards for the competition of the 3 great sects that can increase comprehension? After Yi Xian put away the rewards for the Qingyun sect competition, he asked another question. Wan Shanhai first nodded, and then shook his head. The heavenly treasures for the competition of the 3 great sects are provided by the 3 great sects themselves, and there are a total of 3 rewards. For the champion's reward, I provided 1,000-year ice silk armor, the Huoya sect provided a 3rd-grade soul returning pill, and the Shinshan sect provided the most generous reward, which is an extremely rare heavenly treasure called the Spirit Burst Flower. However, among these 3 rewards, only the Shinshan sect's reward has the ability to improve a cultivator's comprehension value. This thing is even more precious than the heart-seeking fruit. I had not expected the Shinshan sect to have been willing to pay such a price. Having said this, Wan Shanhai smiled and continued. But at the same time, this also means that the Shinshan sect believes that they have a great chance of becoming the champion of the 3 great sects competition. It is said that the Shinshan sect has indeed produced a disciple with an extremely monstrous level of talent. As soon as he finished speaking, Wan Shanhai could not help but look at Yi Xian. Of course, no matter how monstrous the other party's level of talent was, it could not be compared to Yi Xian. Unfortunately, Yi Xian's cultivation had grown too rapidly. Now that he was an elder of the Qingyun sect, he had already lost the qualification to participate in the competition between the 3 great sections. It seems that the Shinshan sect is indeed very confident. Hearing this, Yi Xian could not help but smile. Obviously, whether it was the Shinshan sect or Wan Shanhai, they all felt that their disciples would definitely be able to win the competitions, which was why they were willing to take out such rare heavenly treasures as rewards. After all, a farmer's waterway would not flow to an outsider's field. If they were not certain that their disciples could win the competitions, they would not have been willing to pay such a price. There were less than 5 days before the Qingyun sect competition, but a full 24 days before the competition between the 3 great sections. He had plenty of time. Then, Yi Xian bade farewell to Wan Shanhai and returned to Lingjiu Peak. As soon as he arrived at Lingjiu Peak, he immediately called Li Qinyan and Yu over. He planned to properly prepare his disciples during this period of time, so as to increase his chances of winning the competitions. Greetings, teacher. Li Qinyan and Yu bowed to Yi Xian. Rise. Yi Xian nodded, and then said slowly, in 5 days, our Qingyun sect competition will commence. You will represent me and participate. Just bring back the champion rank. We will obey teacher's orders. Yu and Li Qinyan responded obediently. However, before you participate in the sect competition, I will try my best to raise your cultivation levels. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Xian's gaze fell on his two disciples. Other than admiring his disciples' fairy-like beauty, he was also examining their information. Li Qinyan Comprehension Value 299 Innate Bone Value 79, Dual. Spirit Physique. Innate affinity with both wood and fire attributes. Note: one can only fully activate the dual spirit physique after stepping into the true essence realm. Innately suited to be an alchemist, it can be said the owner of the dual spirit physique can achieve twice the result with half the effort when it comes to alchemy. U Comprehension Value 234 Innate Bone Value 329, Sword Jade Physique. A rare physique that is naturally compatible with Sword Dao. Its owner's bones are like fine jade. When this physique is cultivated to the great success stage, the owner can cultivate the most powerful sword qi in the world. Chapter 70. Refining. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 70. Refining Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Although Li Qinyan's comprehension value was extremely high, because her dual. Spirit physique had not been activated, her innate bone value was not particularly outstanding. However, Li Qinyan had already reached the 8th level of the true essence realm, and she had already met the activation conditions for the dual. Spirit physique. However, in order to fully unleash the potential of the dual. Spirit physique, she had to successfully refine her first pill. Only after Li Qinyan had truly become an alchemist would her innate bone value undergo a qualitative change. You had already activated her sword jade physique, so her innate bone value had increased by a large margin. However, this was not the limit of the sword jade physique. As the physique gradually evolved, her innate bone value would continue to rise. Li Qinyan's dual. Spirit physique should be on the same level as Yu's sword jade physique. However, it is indeed quite difficult to turn her into an alchemist within 5 days. Forget it. I'd better refine Dark Glacial Frost and Mountain Chalcedony first. Yi Xian thought for a moment and made up his mind. Why is teacher not speaking? Why is he just staring at us? Yu and Li Qinyan did not dare to look at Yi Xian. After sensing his gaze, they lowered their heads with blushing faces and would only sneak glances at Yi Xian from time to time. However, whenever they saw their teacher's incomparably handsome face, their hearts began to beat uncontrollably. Take out the Dark Glacial Frost and the Mountain Chalcedony. I will help you refine them now. Ah. Okay, teacher. Yi Xian naturally did not know what was going through their minds. His words directly interrupted their thoughts. Yu and Li Qinyan immediately took out the Dark Glacial Frost and the Mountain Chalcedony. These were the treasures that Yi Xian had given them. They could increase a cultivator's innate bone value. Then, the two women sat cross-legged. Yi Xian reached out and grabbed the Dark Glacial Frost in one hand, and the Mountain Chalcedony in the other hand. With his current cultivation, he could easily multitask and refine the two treasures at an extremely fast speed. Soon, the surging spiritual power in Yi Xian's body gushed out, and the Dark Glacial Frost and the Mountain Chalcedony in his hands wide began to gradually liquefy. Soon, the impurities within the two treasures were removed and transformed into extremely pure mystical power. Then, Yi Xian placed his palms on the backs of Li Qinyan and Yu respectively. Under the control of his powerful spiritual sense, these two mysterious forces slowly poured into the bodies of the two disciples. He also helped them to absorb the power. Thanks to the assistance of his surging golden core power, Yu and Li Qinyan quickly finished absorbing the power perfectly. Ding! As the host has helped his disciple increase her innate bone value by 8 points, the host has received a randomized 3x critical reward. Congratulations, the host has received a 24-point increase in the host's innate bone value. Ding! As the host has helped his disciple increase her innate bone value by 25 points, the host has received a randomized 2x critical reward. Congratulations, the host has received a 50-point increase in the host's innate bone value. At the same time, the sound of the system notifications rang out in Yi Xian's mind. As expected, obtaining these rare treasures was worth it. Seeing this, Yi Xian was delighted. He had guessed before that, as long as it was given to his disciple by him personally, he would be able to obtain a reward from the system. In addition, he had also participated in the whole process of refining the spiritual treasures. The facts proved his guess to be correct. Previously, when he had given the dark glacial frost to you, he had received the mountain chalcedony from the system. Now that he had helped you refine the dark glacial frost, he had also gained a system reward for helping her to increase her innate bone value. In other words, he had earned rewards twice from just the dark glacial frost. The first time, he had gained the mountain chalcedony, and the second time, he gained the increase in his own innate bone value. It's a pity that the randomized critical reward was not high, or my innate bone value would have increased by leaps and bounds. Thinking this, Yi Xian could not help but feel a hint of regret. If he had gotten wildly lucky and earned a randomized critical reward that was hundreds, or perhaps even thousands of times, would he not have hit the innate bone value cap immediately? Yi Xian did not know what the upper limit of a cultivator's comprehension and innate bone values were. Moreover, he had once wondered if a cultivator's comprehension value reached the upper limit, would they be able to create a martial technique or learn a martial technique in an instant? To verify his guess, he had to find more heavenly treasures that could increase his comprehension value. If his comprehension value reached a certain level, and his sword intent could increase by 1 level every day, would that not be awesome? If he maxed out his innate bone value, would he not be able to absorb all of the spiritual energy of the great Qian dynasty in an instant? Ahem, I shouldn't get distracted. Yi Xian smiled awkwardly, and then quickly collected his thoughts. His gaze then fell on Yu and Li Qinyan. The next second, a line of virtual text suddenly appeared in his mind. Yu comprehension value. 234 innate bone value. 337 Li Qinyan comprehension value. 299 innate bone value. 104, alright. Not bad. Yi Xian nodded, and then closed his eyes and pulled up his own attribute page. Yi Xian comprehension value. 394 innate bone value. 519. Whether it was in terms of comprehension value or innate bone value, his disciples were completely crushed. However, when Yi Xian saw his innate bone value, he was slightly surprised. He had not expected it to exceed 500. Originally, his innate bone value was extremely heaven-defying. After the awakening of the Sword Overlord physique, it had received a huge increase. Now that he had received another 74 points worth of innate bone value, the total exceeded 500. Moreover, it seemed that whether it was comprehension value or innate bone value, the true dividing line was the figure of 500. After exceeding 500 points, one would find it even more difficult to increase one's comprehension value and innate bone value. Similarly, the effects of spiritual items and heavenly treasures that could increase the comprehension value and innate bone value would also be greatly reduced.